Good morning, this is Miss Porter. I am going to go over Unit 6, from beginning to the end. The first thing I want to tell you is that you will have a test the week that we come back from President's Day. So the week of February the 16th, at the end of the week, there will be a test posted. Please be sure that you look for that. All right, so this is Unit 6, and the first thing we talked about was congruent triangles. And with congruent triangles, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different types of theorems that we can use to decide if if triangles are congruent. The first one is side, side, side. Now, this is in Schoology. If you need to print off a copy of this, there's also a blank copy where you can write your own notes. And a reminder, all notes are able to be used on tests. So the first one is side, side, side. And that is where if three sides of one triangle are congruent to three sides of another triangle, the triangles are congruent. So here we have an example. AB is congruent to DE, BC is congruent to FE, and AC is congruent to FD. So all three of these have a congruent side on the other triangle. So those two triangles are congruent to each other. The next one is side, angle, side. Side, angle, side says if two sides and the included angle of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding parts of another triangle, the triangles are congruent. So here you'll see that BC is congruent to FE. Angle C is congruent to angle F. And side AC is congruent to DF. So here we have side, angle, side. So that means that these two triangles are congruent to each other. The third one is angle, side, angle. And that is when you have, if two angles and the included side of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding parts of another triangle, the triangles are congruent. So here in this example, angle C is congruent to angle F, angle B is congruent to angle E, and BC is congruent to FE. So here we have angle, side, angle. And these abbreviations here, A is for angle and S is for side. So this is angle, side, angle. All right, the fourth one is angle, angle, side, and it says if two angles and the non-included side of one triangle are congruent to the corresponding parts of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. Here we have A is congruent to D. Angle C is congruent to angle F. And the non-included side means one that's not in between those two angles. So BA and DE are congruent. So this is angle, angle, side. Angle, angle, side. All right, hypotenuse leg is whenever you have a right triangle, and it says if the hypotenuse and the leg of one right triangle are congruent to the corresponding parts of another right triangle, then the triangles are congruent. So the question is, what is the hypotenuse and what is the leg? So this is a right angle in this right triangle. The side that is opposite of the right angle is called the hypotenuse. The other two sides are called legs. So here I have two triangles. The hypotenuses are congruent. One of the legs are congruent. So if hypotenuse, leg, hypotenuse, leg. So there are your 5 congruent triangles. Now, one thing that it talked about is corresponding parts. You have a worksheet in Schoology. This is it, and you will need to open this using Cami. You will need to make changes, download it, and submit it. I know that y'all know how to do that because you've been doing it in other classes. If you are unfamiliar how to do that, please send me a message and I will send you directions on how to do that. So here we have angle ABC and FED, and they have labeled some of the sides, and they want you, and the angles, so they want you to tell them what all of these are. Now on this one, there is a missing part. Most of the ones I was able to correct. So what I do is I want to go through here and mark which ones are congruent. All right, I know that BC is congruent to FE, so that one's 5.3 centimeters. This one's congruent to this one, and this one is congruent to this one. So I can mark all of my sides. The angle across from 5.3 is 28. The angle across from 11.7 is 95. And the angle across from, it doesn't tell me. How can I figure out? Well, I know that if I add all 3 of these, they're going to be equal to 180. So I can say 180 minus 95 minus 28. And that gives me, let's see, 95 plus 28 is, and that's 123. 180 minus 123 would be 757. So that is 57 degrees. This one's 57 degrees. So now that I have all that information, I can go in here and fill all this out. AB is 9.7, BC is 5.3, and so on and so forth. So this is the first assignment that you had. The second assignment that you had was this maze, and you again pull this up on Cami. Cami has an editing feature. You will just go through. We're going to start here. This is side, angle, side. Cami will let you shade that in. Then we'll go to this one. We determine, okay, this is angle, side, angle. So we're going to go this way and continue until you complete it, download it, upload it through Schoology. So that's the second assignment. That is the first day of lessons we had. All right, the second day of lessons that we had was on isosceles triangles. And I know I'm going kind of fast. You can stop it and rewind it to watch whenever you want to. All right, the second set of lessons that we talked about was isosceles, equilateral, and right triangles. So an isosceles triangle, remember, is two congruent, it has two congruent sides. So it would be a triangle like this that has two congruent sides. Now, the isosceles triangle theorem says that if two sides of a triangle are congruent, then the angles opposite those sides are congruent. So if I had here this triangle A, B, C, and it's marked that AB is congruent to BC, then according to this theorem, the angle opposite of these two congruent sides are congruent to each other. So we have that in triangle ABC, line AB is congruent to line BC, and angle A is congruent to angle C. All right? So let's say I have this problem here. And I'm going to call this triangle XYZ. I say that this one is congruent to this one. It has a little triangle here. This is congruent to this, so I'm going to call it DE. It says that this angle is congruent to this angle. And the question is, find out the angle of angle E, angle DEX. Well, since this triangle here, really we don't need this information over here for the bigger one. Since this triangle here has two congruent sides, angle X would be congruent to angle DEX. So angle X is congruent to angle DEX. Okay? All right, so second theorem on isosceles triangles, it says that if a line bisects the vertex angle of an isosceles triangle, then the line is also the perpendicular bisector of the base. So let's say we have this triangle here. And I'm going to label it ABC. And the vertex, which is angle B, is bisected, which means it's cut equally, like this. Then this is a right triangle, and this is a right triangle. Now I'm going to say that this point here is D. And also we have that it is isosceles. Now, whenever this line, our bisector, cuts this triangle in half, angle ABD, which is this, is going to be congruent to angle DBC. Also, if this is an isosceles triangle, then angle A would be congruent to angle C. Okay, so there's a lot we can come to the conclusion. We can tell by what was given to us. Line AB is congruent to line BC. Angle A is congruent to angle C. Angle ABD is congruent to angle CBD. Also, if this is cut in the middle, we can also say that this cuts that bottom line congruent. So, line AD is congruent to line DC. And we can also say that the bisector BD is perpendicular to this base AC. All right, equilateral triangles. Equilateral means that all sides are congruent. Remember that congruent means equal. They have the same measure. So we have another triangle here. And I'm going to call this triangle XYZ. Now, if all of our sides are equal on XYZ, then that would mean that side XY is congruent to side YZ is congruent to side XZ. All the sides are equal. Now, all of the angles are also equal to each other. So angle X is congruent to angle Y is congruent to angle Z. Now, if equilateral means they have all the same sides, then equiangular means that they have all the same angles or congruent angles. All right. Another thing that I can come to the conclusion on this is I know that if I add up all three of these, they are going to be equal to 180 because they are equal to each other. So if I wanted to know what the angle measure was of each of these, I could say, well, I know that 180 is being divided evenly by 3. So 180 divided by 3 is 60. So every one of these angles on any equilateral, equiangular triangle is equal to 60 degrees. So let's work a couple of problems. All right. Here we have a straight line, and on our straight line rests an isosceles triangle. All right, so they tell us that this angle here is 110 degrees. This angle is X, and this angle is Y. And they want us to figure out what X and Y are. Well, I know that angle Y is congruent to this angle because this is isosceles, but I don't know what that angle is. But I do know that this straight line is 180 degrees. If they say, all right, this is a straight line, it's 180 degrees, and this angle here, which is adjacent to this angle, is 110, then I can say 180 minus 110 is 70. This angle is 70 degrees. If this angle is 70 and it's congruent to Y, then Y is also 70 degrees. To find X, I'm going to have to say 180 minus 70 minus 70, which is 40. So Y is equal to 70, X is equal to 140. All right, let's do another one. So let's say we've got this. And this is a quadrilateral. It's cut in half, so that's 2 triangles there. They tell me that this is congruent to this, and this side is congruent to this side. They tell me that this angle is X, this angle is 50, this angle is Y, and this angle is 100. And they want to know what angle X and angle Y are. Well, first thing I'm going to do is mark what I know. All right, I know that this angle is going to be congruent to this angle because it's an isosceles triangle. Also, this angle is going to be congruent to this angle because this side's an isosceles triangle. Now, this triangle has nothing to do with this triangle except for the fact that they share a side. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the triangle on the left. Well, I know that this angle is 50, and this top angle is congruent to the bottom angle. So if this one's 50, the top one's going to be 50. All right, so I've got this whole side is supposed to be equal to 180. I can subtract 50, subtract 50 again, and get 80. So X is equal to 80 degrees. All right, for this side, the one on the right, well, it tells me that this one is 100. So I can take 180 and I can subtract what I know. I know that that one is 100. So that leaves me 80. Well, these two angles are congruent to each other, which means they have to be equal. And so I can divide 80 into two equal parts. And 80 divided by 2 is 40. So Y is 40. All right, there will be several problems like those on your homework. All right. Another page of notes. All right, so congruence in right triangles. And we talked just a few minutes ago about how if I have a right triangle, the angle, the side across from the right triangle, a right angle, is called the hypotenuse. And the other two are called legs. All right, now this is the hypotenuse leg theorem that we had on the other. It says if the hypotenuse and leg of one triangle are congruent to the hypotenuse and leg of another triangle, then the triangles are congruent. So if I had this triangle, they're right. My hypotenuses are congruent. This leg here is congruent. And they tell me that this is how they label it. Now, they want to know what Z and W are. Well, I know that 16 is equal to W, so that has to make W equal to 16. And Z is congruent with 9, so that means that Z is equal to 9. All right. One last thing. Let's say we have these two triangles. They are both right angles, right triangles. This side is congruent, this leg is congruent to this leg, and the hypotenuses are congruent. And they label it like this: X plus 3, 3Y, and Y plus 1. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to let this sink in and see, all right, what do I do? Well, the first thing I want to do is I want to write some equations that are equal to each other. X equals Y plus 1, and X plus 3 equals 3Y. because of the congruent signs. I know that. All right, now I'm going to take and use the substitution property. So I know that x is equal to y plus 1. I can take this equation. I can take y plus 1 and replace x with y plus 1. So y plus 1 plus 3 equals 3y. I'm going to do some simplification. Oh, this is y. I'm going to subtract y from both sides. I divide both sides by 2 and get that y is equal to 2. All right, so I know what y is equal to. So I can go up here. I still need to know what x is equal to. I could put y in this formula as substitution, or I could put it in this formula for substitution. Personally, I like the more simple one, okay? So I'm going to say x plus y x equals y plus 1. Y is equal to 2, so I'm going to substitute 2 for y and have x is equal to 3. Okay? So y is equal to 2, x is equal to 3. Just for the kick of it, I'm going to fill that in here. I'm going to say, okay, this side is 3. X plus 3, 3 plus 3 is 6. 3 times y is 6. And y plus 1 is 3. It worked out. My legs are 3. My hypotenuse is 6. All right, so these are the assignments that we have so far this week. You have your corresponding sides and angles. You have that triangle maze. You have the isosceles, equilateral, and right triangle assignment. Now, these two right here, I have to grade by hand, so you won't get an immediate response. I have not put in the next assignment, but I will be putting in an assignment on overlapping triangles. If you are in my honors class, you have an assignment called, it says that it is the swan figure. And for the swan figure, you might need to print that out. If you have any questions about it, honors students, just let me know. All right, so all of that being said, your tests are going to be on Unit 6. They will be the 18th and 19th. Progress reports. They come out on the 24th. So you still have a good opportunity to improve your grade. If you have any questions, please email me. I do answer emails. I have them on my phone. I will answer them, try to answer them in a timely manner. If you have any questions, please just let me know. All right, have a great day and have an awesome Valentine's Day.